Hey everybody, welcome back to Bible Fun with the Nuns. Today we study John chapter 16, so let's get started.
Okay, John chapter 16, you have to remember everything is moving us to the cross. So Jesus and his disciples have gone to the upper room. Jesus has talked to them about abiding in him, and why that's important is because Jesus is about to leave for the earth and he's going to go to heaven, but he's indicating that even though he is physically gone, we can still stay spiritually connected to him. And so now in chapter number 16, Jesus is moving us even closer to this moment. And the last thing Jesus is going to do before the cross really kicks up, and Jesus is betrayed and arrested and Peter denies him and all of that stuff, the last thing Jesus is going to do in the next chapter, he's going to pray. And he's going to pray what's called the high priestly prayer. But in chapter 16, Jesus is preparing the disciples for what's about to come. Why? Because they assume that life is always going to be this great. Life is going to be wonderful. They were going to keep trucking along, but Jesus had news for them. Jax, what's this story basically about?
Basically, Jesus is leaving and the Holy Spirit's coming.
Okay, so Jesus is leaving, the Holy Spirit is coming, and so Jesus has what kind of news for everybody?
It's kind of good and bad.
It's kind of good and bad. Now, what's the bad news?
Well, Jesus is leaving.
Jesus is leaving. What's the good news?
The Holy Spirit's coming.
The Holy Spirit is coming. Now, whenever you read through this, Jesus is telling his disciples all of this information about the appearance of the Holy Spirit so that they don't collapse from worry and wander away when the trouble finally does happen. In verse number 2, it says that there would be a time, listen, you will be put out of the synagogues. Yes, the time is coming that whoever kills you will think that he offers God a service. The word service there is the same word used to describe how a priest works in the temple. So they're going to think that what they do is actually a holy service to the Lord. And so you'll later see an evidence of this with Saul of Tarsus, who's murdering believers for following Jesus. One of the early church fathers, his name was Tertullian. He said that the blood of the martyrs was the seed of the church. And that's powerful. And so Jesus is telling them that he's leaving, and they're sad. Because in verse 6, he says, because I've said these things to you, sorrow has filled your heart. So even with all their faults, the thing that's clear about these disciples is they dearly loved Jesus, and it was difficult for them to think that he's going to leave. And so Jesus is indicating something new is about to happen. John 3:16 told us, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son. So the Father sent the Son. Now, according to verse 7, nevertheless I tell you the truth, it is to your advantage that I go away. For if I do not go away, the Helper will not come. But if I depart, I will send him. So as the Father sent the Son, now the Son is sending the Holy Spirit. Now, Jax, what's interesting about this appearance of the Holy Spirit to us?
Okay, so basically they don't really understand like the whole Holy Spirit deal at this point. But we see the Holy Spirit, he's existed like forever, just like God the Son, just like God the Father and God the Son, right. Because they're 3 in 1. But anyway, we see him like appear multiple times throughout the Old Testament and some of the New Testament before Jesus left. But we see this in like Samson when it says the Spirit of the Lord came on him and gave him this strength. That's just an example. But back then, the Holy Spirit came on people in certain moments and he stayed with them temporarily. But basically what Jesus is trying to say, he's trying to say that the Holy Spirit is coming and he's going to abide with us and live in us.
That's right. So I heard one writer put it like this one day. He said, imagine when you get to heaven and you meet Samson. And you say, hey, Samson, tell me about the time when the Holy Spirit came upon you and you defeated all those Philistines. What if Samson says, hey, yeah, that was a cool day, but you, Jax, tell me what it was like that when you got saved, the Holy Spirit never left you. I had him for a few minutes and did something neat. You had him every minute of your saved life all the way to heaven. What was that kind of life like? I'm telling you, I don't think we're valuing what we really have. As a matter of fact, Jesus said, a little while and you will not see me, and a little while and you will see me because I go to the Father. That was verse 16. That was going to be true in the short term in that he was going to die and be buried. They were going to miss him for 3 days and then he was coming back. But also in the long term that he is going to ascend to his Father in heaven and one day he's coming back. And so this is both a short-term and a long-term example of what Jesus is doing. And he's telling his disciples, you will be sorrowful, but your sorrow will be turned into joy. I've got that underlined in my Bible. And so in this moment with Jesus, look in verse 32. He says, indeed the hour is coming, yes, has now come, that you will be scattered, each to his own, and will leave me alone. Yet I am not alone, because the Father is with me. So their strength, Jesus is telling them, by talking about himself, he's telling them that their strength wasn't as much as they thought it was going to be, but it's okay, because God's characteristic is he will never leave us nor forsake us. Tony Evans said here that maintaining an intimate relationship with the Lord is going to radically change your perspective as you face whatever obstacles come your way. His peace gives you peace in the midst of all of life's crisis. And that's what he's saying. Jesus is saying, I am leaving to go to the Father, but you will not be left. I am leaving, but you will not be left. I may be going, but you will not be alone. As I have gone, so I will send, and I will make sure you are never alone. This is a powerful promise for us, and one that we get to live every day if we walk in the Spirit. All right? Hope you enjoyed this chapter. We'll see you tomorrow in Jesus' high priestly prayer, where he prays for himself, he prays for the apostles, and he even prays for us. All right, we'll see you there. Bye.
Bye.